get a motion to accept the May meeting minutes as recorded, please? Made by Andrea. Second by Dick. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. We have several presentations on for today. We're doing park strategies first, right? So Mr. Bronner's here, I believe. Park strategies to update us about some of our lobbying efforts in Albany. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Members all up and the board of legislators, thank you. Thank you for having me. Brief. In Albany, we were retained a couple of years ago for Lewis County to focus on various matters, economic development, local government, specific focus, heavily emphasized on tourism and ATV usage. So in the past couple of years, or a year and a half really, we've been working in Albany to try to address some of the ATV issues that are important to the county, and I'm learning many other counties in New York. Specifically with the increase of a weight limit for ATVs from 1,000 pounds to a number we've determined through talks to be around 2,000 pounds. We know that's very important for economic development purposes in the county. So this has been quite a process. You know, I've worked on many complicated matters in Albany, but this was unique in that there are many moving parts. So the first year we really spent talking to government officials in the legislature, state senate, state assembly, Department of Environmental Conservation, Department of Motor Vehicles, the governor's office, Department of Transportation, and really learn about the issue and where the impediments are moving forward to raising the weight limit. We've been holding meetings with various stakeholders, with the county present and without the county present. Those include other counties and like-minded associations who would like to achieve the goal of raising the weight limit. We are learning that there's other goals that these entities have, such as trail funds, and matters like that. So there's a lot of moving parts, but we're trying to manage it from a county's perspective of focusing on the weight limit increase. Our big goal from looking at past history is we seem to have a champion in the assembly, something like Billy Jones from the North Country. It was in the Adirondacks. He's been supportive. We really needed a focus on the state senate, and we were working with the state senator, John Mannion from Onondaga and Oswego County. We've gotten him to support and introduce a bill that would increase the weight limit from 1,000 to 2,000 pounds. Senator Mannion was just up in Oswego County 2 weeks ago for a ride on a UTV. So he seems to be supportive. This is important because you need to have someone in each house to pass a bill, and you need someone in each house to support it, to bring folks to the table to discuss. We know there's environmental groups that have concerns with raising the weight limit, and whether you agree with those concerns or not, they're there. We need to deal with them. But one of the leverage we have is now we have a supportive member in each house. So,
and the majorities too.
The majorities, yeah, they're majority members.
So we've always had support from local Republicans, but it hasn't really helped us move anything.
Yeah, and Senator Ritchie, when she was in the majority, was helpful. It's just it ran into some roadblocks, which we found out. With the Adirondacks back in 2016, but I've been told from various groups that it's actually enough time has passed since then to re-engage the discussions. So those discussions are moving forward. And the legislative session was supposed to end last week. It ends today, or tomorrow. They're actually just gaveled back in right now. But over the summer, we will be working with these groups because that's when a lot of the groundwork is laid in the legislation. Is in the off session over the summer, fall. So we're going to engage. We're working with small groups we'll keep those discussions going, and we will be probably meeting with the governor's office and some executive agencies over the summer as well. So, the two overarching issues with it is there's the traffic, called traffic and safety component, and there's the environmental component, which, is, so we agree with it or not, like I said, it's there.
Does it have to do with fuel spills? Is it erosion? What's the environmental concern?
Some of it is a little bit of fuel. It's the digging up of the trails,
okay,
of the park, and then you have some who just, no matter what you say, they're going to oppose it because they don't want any more vehicles anywhere in the park, whether it be ATVs or snowmobiles. Some of these folks don't even want hikers in the park, because hikers, I guess, so I'm told, they cause a lot of damage on the trails. So you're dealing with, that as a concern for some parties. These are well-funded groups with reach all over the country.
Yep.
So, that's on the on the regulatory side. We are engaging, we'll be engaging DEC with respect to truck trails. So we're working with your local legislators on going to DEC to focus on that, a regulatory matter. That's sometimes can be simpler than a legislative because you don't need a whole body to coalesce. More centrally focused. So we're going to be starting with those discussions. We just got to get our head wrapped around exactly what we want to ask for.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Does the state find the financial component compelling? I mean, just trying to find every possible funding source they can for, the expansion of Medicaid and things like that, all the different costs that they have.
They do find it compelling. Just right now you don't have a revenue issue with the state. That's coming up. The state has indicated there's a $9 billion deficit for next year. So going into the next budget. So, right. But yeah, it is compelling, and a lot of the counties are finding that's a compelling argument to them as well. And we are working with State Senator Walz's office. He's going around with counties trying to get support resolutions for the sales tax component. We believe there's at least in New York 100,000 of the UTVs that are not registered.
Right.
Yeah, those are they're I guess it's a reasonable estimate. It may be higher, but they do find it a compelling argument though. Because if you buy one in New York, you're still supposed to, pay the sales tax.
Right.
But if you buy it outside of New York, because you can't register it, you don't need to. If you had to register it, then you would have to, pay your sales tax as part of the registration.
Right. Yep. Any other questions?
I can move on to the next.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So I have a few things we were working on I want to talk about. The biomass facility at Fort Drum for re-energy. Ryan asked me to get involved last year. We know that's an important economic generator for the North Country, but specifically Lewis County. We started teaming up with the Empire Forest Products Association and re-energy to go meet with the governor's office, the state legislature, and the Public Service Commission. We actually took the lead on a lot of these meetings, especially the Public Service Commission. Larry Ryan came into town. We met with the top staff there. They were sympathetic to our argument about keeping it open. It's just in the law, it specifically does not include biomass as renewable. So there were some last minute efforts in the budget process this past year to try to pass a bill to help save that facility and others. Those failed. Some of the called environmental justice groups were really opposed to it. But we were able to present our case and importantly establish a relationship with the policymakers on this.
mean, I think we got meetings that in the past, if, you know, we were trying to do this on our own, I don't think we would have ever gotten into those rooms without, you know, Kevin's help. I mean, we met with about as high up as you can get at the Public Service Commission, and likewise we had meetings with the Assembly and Senate energy, you know, staff.
Yeah.
So we did everything that we certainly punched above our weight, you know, in terms of having a presence on this issue.
Yeah, we were in a coalition. We were the ones getting the meetings. So it's an uphill. It's an uphill battle when you're dealing with the CLCPA. Third one we worked on was a snowmobile trail fund increase. You know, that was to increase the fees to go to the clubs that the association, many of the counties were supportive of. You passed the memo, sorry, resolution support of it. That has passed. That passed last year and is going to go into effect, I believe, May 1st of 2024. Yes, it was the effective date of the year. So you're going to have increased revenue going to the clubs for trail maintenance. It was the first time that's been done in about 22 years. It was about 22 years. In the budget as well, there was a provision for the wind and solar tax assessment methodology that was first passed a couple of years ago. That was to change the methodology, have a standardized assessment from the state tax department on wind and solar projects. The rationale behind that proposal was to lower property taxes on some of these projects because they need to advance more projects into the state to meet the renewable energy goals. That is it's problematic because you entered into existing pilots, and this could theoretically, I don't know if it's happened yet, but the person was willing to pull out of the pilot and revert to this new methodology. So this has been in court. I think it's still in court. But one of the reasons it was in court was under this State Administrative Procedures Act violation. The law was changed this past year to eliminate that aspect of the SAPA requirement. We weighed in. We're saying maybe you can make this be prospective. The Senate was opposed to it completely, but at the end of the day, they removed the SAPA perspective. So
doesn't that make the lawsuit moot at this point then?
I can't speak to that, but we had an update from Harris Beach that Scott Doyle was chatting with them not that long ago, and they said that they're regrouping with Schoharie County and some of the others and trying to find a new legal tack. So, and they're really good. They're a really good energy law firm.
Yeah.
We do business with them there. So, then we just generally track other legislation that impact Lewis County. You get a sales tax extender that went through. We talked with Ryan earlier, the chairman, about there's a lot of legislation on elections that went through that were moving the date from odd years to even years for your elections. That legislation went through. It's very, very controversial. It still has to go to the governor to be for action. We don't know where she will be on that. That's going to impact the election administration for sure, if it is to be signed into law. That would be something for us to talk about today if you want to move a resolution to the July meeting, not to presume what you guys would feel about it, but the thought process in a lot of local government circles is that lumping in local government elections into presidential and congressional years, one, it's going to make it very difficult for our issues to have a voice during those years, and two, you guys are going to be out doing petitions, and what are people going to be asking you about? They're going to be asking about national issues, immigration, abortion, who you're voting for, and that's not traditionally been our purpose here at local government. So the NISAC has come out strongly against it, so maybe it's something we might want to do a resolution one way or another on in July, if you guys are inclined.
The only positive on the other side that I've read about, and I don't know if you can speak on it, Kevin, too, but there does seem to be some statistics that show that the turnout of local voters is definitely higher in those even-numbered years.
Yes, I mean they are higher because you have the top of the ticket, presidential, especially driving people out, and the governor's race too. This is the other, so you do have higher turnout, but the concern is that those issues are lost in a presidential or gubernatorial year. So that's. No matter what, if it's signed into law, it's going to impact the election administration. You have to meet the dates. You're still going to have, I believe you're still going to have some even or some odd year elections with your judges and district attorneys, I believe. We're still in those years.
So it wouldn't make it any cheaper? Like
no.
We still have to run an election every
Correct.
year. Yeah.
They got an exemption, so they probably have there's associations who represent these groups.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they went in that exemption.
There was a treasurers association.
It's not too late. She still has to sign it, and they can make a change if she decides to sign it. There's also was another one that was interesting on elections, where if you want to bring a challenge to the election law or election specifically, you no longer can bring it in your county. You can only do it in Westchester County, New York County, Albany County, and Erie County.
Wow.
And I believe that was a result of last year with the redistricting for congressional and state senate lines. It was brought in a county in western New York. And, the thought process is the plaintiffs went court shopping to find a friendly judge. So from a Democratic perspective, they went to a Republican county. This does kind of the opposite. It's the same thing, but it narrows. They're doing exactly what they're trying to eliminate, which is you're not going to be forced to go to Erie, Albany, Westchester, or New York City if the bill is signed. The bill has not been acted on yet. And I believe that's all I really have on other matters working on. I'm happy to answer any questions or address any issues now, or if you think of them after. I'm always happy to jump on a call if any legislative department heads.
All right. Any questions then for Kevin? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.